What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so this one missed me because apparently Gilbert Arenas made this statement on Gil's Arena a couple of months ago. He made this outrageous fake news claim about Michael Jordan and Jordan fans, right? So I think this was around the time that Gilbert Arenas was making the claim that I think when we went on ESPN, it made the claim that Tracy McGrady versus Kobe Bryant was a real debate in 2004, 2003. Which is true. It definitely was. My opinion was that was only when Tracy McGrady was in Orlando, when he was putting up ridiculous amount of offensive production on a terrible team, right? But that stopped once Tracy no longer had the excuse that he didn't have any help when he went to Houston. And then Kobe was playing by himself in LA and was replicating and exceeding what Tracy was doing in Orlando. And then without Shaq, Kobe went on to win back-to-back titles. That's when it stopped. That was my point. But around that time, apparently Gilbert put out this other fake news claim that Michael Jordan apparently came back to basketball to stop or try to quell the Kobe is the next Mike talk. Essentially trying to make it seem like he's trying to almost insinuate, saying Michael Jordan fans and the media brought that up. He's trying to insinuate that Jordan was essentially doing to Kobe what LeBron and his minions do to people now. Right? This is what he was saying.
Why was Kobe being called a sidekick? Why was he being called that? Because no one realized who the fuck just came back into the league at that moment in time. Michael Jordan was in the NBA still. Those people that was NBA Jordan lovers, NBC, all of them, they was not listening to no fucking Kobe is the next Michael Jordan while Michael Jordan was fucking playing basketball. They didn't want to hear none of that shit and talking. And that's who started the campaign of Kobe sidekick. This is Shaq's team. That's who separated. They did it in real time because Michael Jordan was there. They wasn't going to allow you to say this guy won 3 and he's about to win 4. Remember, he's 22 at the time with 3 rings. They're just like he's hitting his peak while Shaq is in his peak still. So these two are sitting there at 1A and 1A.5, whoever you want to get it. And it was about to fucking go 4, 5, and 6. And that's when the Jordan loving media decided to start using those narratives in real time. No one before that was ever heard of as number 2 option ring. That wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing. Like Magic Johnson used to talk about, I got 5 gold rings, I got 3 silvers. You're not going to take this credit for me getting to the finals and losing. You're not on the same planet as me. You didn't even make it to the finals. You're laughing at number 2. It wasn't a thing. That wasn't a thing until LeBron started winning. Then that became, losers. You're going all the way to the chip and losing. Hey. So they changed the narrative for both of them. How are you people not watching this? There was never no ring culture till 98. Right? Never no ring culture into 1998. Hence why the Kareem fans don't understand how he was never in this conversation. Like, never. No one. Well, where the fuck is Kareem at? Yeah, the Jordan was already to go, and they was like, fuck you and Magic and Bird. So it's one guy, and then it started. That's why you've never heard of a debate with Kareem, period. That's why his group is arguing. That's why you never heard of, well, Kareem and Magic, they played together. Why they not get penalized for sidekick rings? Because it didn't start until Kobe won his 3. Same reason you never heard about losing, and that was a penalty, until LeBron James. It's the same group doing the same thing, changing the rules of how rings matter. And you keep falling for the same trick. Well, it's not the same trick. It is a different trick. Y'all are mad right now, right, about Curry, right? Now, I'm pretty sure y'all looked at this list, looked at everything that's been written. He got 2 sidekick rings, right? He don't have scoring titles more than Kobe. He don't got this. He don't got that. How is he in front? How is it? Because they changing the rules again. Your niggas is so busy looking at LeBron James. That nigga's 2. Like the fuck you still looking over there for? He's 2. He's paying attention to trying to get the Jordan. That's the problem. The Jordan, the Kobe, these Kobe fans is using Jordan logic against LeBron. He's 2 fighting for 1. They're literally putting people in front in real time, and y'all like, yeah, Curry ain't worth it. We still looking at LeBron. Like,
I mean, there's so much misinformation there. I don't know if I'll be able to talk or focus on any one of them. Because I'm trying to think of everything that he just said, because I was just so baffled by all of the misinformation, misdirection, and lies. He said that when Mike came back, the media was trying to say that Kobe was the next Mike. When Kobe won those 3 titles, he won the 3rd one in 2002. Jordan was already back in the league. That was the end of his first season. But actually, if you watch basketball, when Mike first came back, like 2001, the guy who they were trying to still compare to Mike and say the next Mike, at least the media, was Vince Carter. I know it's hard to believe, but it was Vince Carter. It was Vince Carter. Vince Carter was the guy who the media was pegging as the next Mike. He was bald. He was 6'6". He was crazy athletic with the dunks. He had the jump shot. He had a better outside 3 ball than Mike. He's from North Carolina, like Mike. Went to North Carolina. That was the guy they were pegging to be the next Mike. Incidentally, Jordan kind of helped in his way, if you want to say anything about somebody that Jordan might have helped pull from that conversation. I distinctly remember when Mike reportedly, when asked about Vince, his observation just before he came back was that Vince didn't play defense. And the media did start focusing on that. And I remember a game when the Wizards was playing the Raptors, and I can't remember whether it was the first year or the second year. I think it was the first year Mike came back. And the Wizards were getting their ass whooped by the Raptors in the first half. And Vince had like 23 points in the half, which at that time was like a motherfucker scoring 35 and a half or something, And then Michael Jordan made it his mission to shut Vince Carter down in the second half, which he did. And he helped the Wizards come back and win that game. And I remember Vince Carter got so much shit, so much flack for that. Plus, over time, he started becoming overshadowed by Kobe. And I would say 2002, 2003, although there have been some subtle Kobe Bryant comparisons by the media, it was really 2002, 2003, Mike's second year, where you saw that sustained Jordan comparison, right? And what stopped it? What stopped the comparisons? What stopped the Kobe hype? Wasn't the media, Michael Jordan fans in the media. That's poppycock. What stopped it, unfortunately, was Boulder, Colorado. That's what stopped it. That's what started the media kind of cooling off of talking about Kobe like that. So it was more of a corporate business decision. And then, you had the Malice at the Palace, what happened in 2004. And, the media all of a sudden started trying to push guys like Dirk Nowitzki, and it gave Steve Nash 2 MVPs. And that's what kind of happened there. Okay. Now, about this whole thing with ring culture. Ring culture started really in the last 15 years. And I would say the biggest instigators of ring culture have been guys like Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless. Because I don't recall in the 2000s, when I was listening to sports talk, them talking about championships. Because if it was about ring culture, as Gilbert Arenas asserts, then why is it that when you looked at most of the polls, and I proved this time and time again, when you look at most of the polling, the all-time great players in the early 2000s, why is it that Wilt Chamberlain was consistently in the top 2 to 3 in all-time players? He only has 2 championships. Wilt had a losing finals record too of 2-4. So what you had were still people in the media, enough people in the media who had watched Wilt Chamberlain play. You had enough fans, older, but enough fans who had watched Wilt Chamberlain play, who were still with us. Plus, Wilt had only been deceased for a couple of years, so he was still relatively relevant. So why was Wilt number 2, Kareem number 3, if it's about rings? The reason why Michael Jordan's 6 championships mattered so much as opposed to Kareem's 6 championships is how they got those championships. Kareem got 6 championships, but he was only finals MVP, I believe, in 2 of those championships, 1971 and 1985. Now, he should have gotten 80, but that's a whole different video for another day. Michael Jordan was the unquestioned best player on all 6 of those NBA championship teams. Also, Michael Jordan didn't play with another superstar of Magic Johnson or Oscar Robertson's caliber. He played with Scottie Pippen, who was a very, very, very good player, a better defensive player than offensive player, in my opinion. But never a guy on that level. And without Magic Johnson and without Oscar Robertson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was rather middling as far as success is concerned. Now, I know people say, well, what did Michael Jordan do without Scottie Pippen? Well, look at the start of the 1997-98 season when the Bulls were number 1 in the Eastern Conference, when Scottie was still feuding with the front office about his pay. Scottie Pippen hadn't suited up since the summer of 97, and somehow the Bulls, with a starting lineup sometimes of Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman, Jason Caffey, Bill Winnington, and Ron Harper, somehow that fucking team had the best record in the Eastern Conference. So So when you combine the dominance, particularly the playoff dominance, when you combine the scarcity of which talent which he played with, the domination he showed over his opponents, because he was already being called the greatest player of all time without even having won a championship by 1988. So it wasn't because of rings they were calling Jordan the greatest. They was calling Jordan the greatest because he was the best fucking player they'd ever seen. Ring culture, ironically, started under these morons today. And he said they didn't start calling people sidekicks until Kobe. And that was a media deflection to keep them from comparing him to Mike. They called Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen became synonymous with sidekick. What is he talking about? Scottie Pippen was synonymous with sidekick. So much so that probably contributed to Scottie's long-standing personal private feud with Jordan, no matter how much praise Michael Jordan heaped upon him. And last but not least, I want to say this about Michael Jordan's influence in the game when he came back with the Wizards. If you actually watch those games, the officials treated Jordan like a rookie. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. They weren't giving him any real special calls like they do this clown in LA. His team, the Wizards weren't getting special calls. The Wizards weren't getting these fucking flippant whistles that obviously benefited them. Matter of fact, the Wizards took a step down offensively his second full year with the Wizards. Jordan's influence, I would say honestly, they talked about Jordan less during his Wizard years because David Stern recognized that he had to promote his new talent. But they talked about Jordan a lot. They gave him his respect. But he was no longer the face of the NBA. I would argue they were still trying to figure out who the face should be, but they went about it. David Stern pretty much said, look, we got a plethora of stars right now. I would argue that was the most star-studded and talented the NBA ever was, the early 2000s, but that's just my opinion. Let's promote all these guys. Let's promote Shaquille O'Neal. Let's promote Kobe Bryant. Let's promote Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, the elder that's still around in Michael Jordan. Let's promote Paul Pierce. Let's promote Kevin Garnett and Tim Duncan. Let's promote young Dirk Nowitzki. Let's promote Steve Nash. Let's promote Allen Houston. And the list goes on and on and on. And one other point I want to make, because I'm trying to think about all the stupid shit this guy said. Did he say something about how players weren't criticized for losing in the finals? Tell that to Wilt Chamberlain, right? And I can't remember whether he said something about Shaq, but Shaq was criticized for getting swept in the finals in that. Matter of fact, Shaq, before 2000, was criticized as a loser. A loser. Because he got swept in the playoffs in 94, in 95, 96, 98, and 99. So I don't know what the hell this guy's talking about, man. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.